Hey guys, gals, and MBs. I'm here today with the Dreadbox Nymphes. I believe that's pronounced Nymphes. And to make it a more Greek themed, I have two characters from the Hades game here, and they're adorable, just like the synth itself. And that's Zagreus and Thane here. And this has become my favorite small form factor synth of all time, and we'll go over why. It's basically what this video is going to be about. For a full disclaimer, I bought this with my own money, and I just really like it, so I'm going to share it. Let's go over some of the things on it. It is a small form factor synth. It is a polysynth. It is analog other than the reverb and the controls that control the analog portion of it. It has the same oscillator section as the Take 5, except it doesn't have a sine wave as the thing. It has a triangle, which I prefer. And it does have a different filter, but as far as I can tell, the filter is a reissue filter from the same company that makes the components on the inside, this and the Take 5, of the Prophet Rev 1 and Rev 2, the Prophet 5 Rev 1 and Rev 2 filter. So the filter sounds great. The oscillators sound great. And unlike the Take 5, this has a analog VCA as well. So everything other than the reverb and the signal path is completely analog. I will do a video where I shoot this out with the Take 5 and potentially the Pro 800, since the Pro 800 is a cheaper synth with different oscillators. They're made by Cool Audio, but similar idea for a cheap polysynth. So yeah, this is a little more expensive, but I prefer the sound of this, even though this is simpler. That all aside, it is USB powered. I have only had noise issues by plugging this into crappy power bricks. I'm using a iPhone power brick now, and it sounds really good. It does have TRS over, or MIDI over TRS, which is a little annoying, but for this size, that's probably why they did that. I prefer they made it a little thicker so they could just put on a regular MIDI jack. And it has a single TRS quarter-inch output. So yeah, it is mono. It has a mono digital reverb, which does not sound very good. It is the only caveat I have to this thing. Now, as you can tell here, I did a little modification. It was super simple. This is a D shaft potentiometer. I put my own knob on top of it because I don't like the default knob for the volume. It works fine on this one, but for whatever reason on the volume, the default knobs just felt very weird because they kept they were like a little cockeyed and off-centered, and that's because this is a D shaft and this is a fully round shaft, and since this has a set screw in it, it just didn't feel right. But this works, and I think it looks pretty cool with that purple knob. So nothing to say about the build quality. The build quality of this thing is excellent. It's metal. The potentiometers feel great. The buttons feel great. The knobs actually felt very solid. I didn't like them being a little bit cockeyed off the, yeah. That said, I like this. It looks great. I wish this wasn't a round selector so I could put on one of these on here easily too, but it just didn't work right. But yeah, that aside, let's listen to why I like it so much. So here we go. I have an init patch that I made because this doesn't have an init patch feature, so I just made a simple patch that loads up the sawtooth wave with a long release envelope. You'll hear. And we have some analog effects here. We have the DC2W and the Meraki, which are analog effects. So we're going to keep this analog. We can listen to the reverb really quick and in a little bit, and I'll show you why I don't like it or let you listen. That said, I wish they put a delay in this or a chorus instead of the not so great reverb. Terrible reverb. Sorry to Dreadbox to say that, but you shouldn't have put that reverb in there, and a lot of people share my sentiment on that. Yeah, so let's go through the waveforms. They sound really good. And the reason that I love this synth, other than the form factor, really good, very clean pulse wave, which is pulse wave modulatable, and you can manually do it, so let's listen to that. And obviously you can set that to a LFO and PWM that, and we'll do that in a minute. And so triangle as well, and the triangle sounds super clean and awesome. go back here and listen to the sub oscillator, kind of like a Juno 6. If this reminds you of a Juno 6, I think it is kind of like a Juno 6, other than that awesome chorus. With a much more advanced envelope section, because we have two envelopes, one for the VCA and VCF, and a much more advanced LFO, obviously. Yeah, so the sub sounds really nice, and you can turn the sub on just by itself if you really wanted to. I don't know why you would, because you already have a square wave. Oh, and noise. Ha, we have noise. All right, so let's do a combination square. Yeah, let's do that. Let's turn off the sub. You can infinitely mix the between the waveforms. So if you want a square triangle, you can do that. Square saw, anywhere in between. But we'll do a square triangle to demonstrate the filter with no sub. Actually, let's turn up the sub a little. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn the filter cutoff all the way down so we have nothing, and we're going to control the filter with the envelope. By default, the envelope here is set to the filter, and if you press shift, it goes to the VCA envelope. So let's get a sweep in there. Filter sounds very nice. Let's add resonance. Let's listen to that filter sweep with both the dimension C here and the Meraki. I love it. So yeah, it is very great sounding. Let's reload my init patch here. You gotta actually press it. It's yeah, you can't press it super quick, but that's my fault. There we go. So it's loaded now. All right, let's listen to the PWM and see how easy it is to do. Once you get used to the menuing system, it is actually pretty easy to use. All right, so you can only use LFO2 for almost all the functions can be modulated by LFO2. LFO1 is hardwired into the LFO for the filter and the oscillator, but LFO2 is a monophonic LFO, while LFO1 is polyphonic. We'll hear that in the filter thing in a minute we'll do. But LFO2 can be routed to pulse width, to the waveform, and all that. It's fairly easy to do. To do it, you open up the menu here. We're in the menu mode. You switch over to 2, which is LFO2. We're now controlling LFO2, and we want to set it to pulse width. Pulse width is a shift function, as you can see here, right here for oscillator 2. So we press shift, and then we hear nothing, but if we move this now up, we get the depth. You hear that? Now let's get out of the shift menu, because in the shift menu for the LFO, this is delay and fade, which is really cool. We'll turn up. And obviously anything that has a square wave in it will do the pulse width. So, oops, now I've also assigned the LFO to the waveform. Let's get out of the menu. We're gonna add a little sub in there. All right, and now let's do the thing with the filter. So we're gonna turn the filter down to right around here. Now we're going to use the LFO with the filter, so LFO 1 obviously. But we're going to make it random. I accidentally turned on the fade on that too, so 1 second. That sounds really cool. Let's add a little bit of resonance. Let's add our analog effects here. I think that's pretty cool. Let's turn off the LFO on that, and let's actually, with that really cool PWM patch, let's do a sweep, shouldn't we? Oh yeah, that sounds cool. Okay, that sounds so cool. Let's listen to that now with delay and the modulation. Cool, and we also have a high pass filter. As far as I know, unfortunately, you can't route that to one of the envelopes, which I wish you could. You could do it to the to one of the LFOs, but they're bipolar, so you can't just pull it down. Oops, I hit tracking by accident. Let's load my init patch again. Let's turn off my effects. Let's just do a, I don't know what we should do. Let's do this, just standard saw and sub. But not too much of the sub. Let's go up an octave. On my keyboard, I mean. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a standard sweep again. We're going to bring this up. We're going to do a no sustain. We're going to do a decay, that, and a release. Actually, we could just do no attack there too. Actually, yeah, let's just do that. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. It does some pretty cool stuff. It's got some. The chord mode is kind of. The chord mode is kind of interesting, but not super useful if you can play chords. It's more interesting if you throw an LFO to it. I guess we could listen to that really quick. We'll just keep that on. So to do a chord mode, we got to you got to actually press the damn button. So go here. We need to go into mode 1. Submenu, and we're going to go into try because we have to be in a unison mode, so that's number 4. Now if I use the chord mode, we got a 5th there in the middle. It's really nice. But like I said, what you could do in that case is you could modulate it. So let's go back in here. Let's make this. Let's go into LFO 2. So we go menu, LFO 2, and we want to assign that to chords. So go into the shift menu. Just turn those off so you can hear what it's doing without it. Let's get out. Let's go back in there. We should be in LFO 2. We can set the. Interesting use case. But yeah, I read some people I like, or I've even seen some reviews asking like what is the use of the chord function if you know how to play chords? I guess that's why it's included, because you can modulate it. It's a modulation destination. So kind of interesting. Detune works in all the modes, but it works especially good in one of the unison modes, so we can listen to detune really quick. So yeah. Let's reload my patch here. Let's just go into unison. Well, let's hear the detune without a unison, shouldn't we? Okay. It detunes every other voice from each other. It's a little too much even at the lowest settings. Actually, I take that back. It's not too bad. Let's listen to it without. Nah, it's pretty bad. But it more comes into light when you're using the unison mode. So if we go into, we're in the shift mode. Let's go here. Let's go to the play menu, which is 2. We're going to go into unison A. So now we have a unison mode. Now if I do the detune, we get ourselves a super saw, which actually sounds okay. Not my thing. I don't really like supercells all that much. Even though I come from a trance background, and I used to make trance music when I was a kid, but whatever. All right, let's do this. Let's go back into one. Oh yeah, let's hear the reverb. The only thing I don't like about this synth, you get used to the menuing system. It is not terrible. You get a good power supply, there's no noise. The size is fantastic, but the reverb, I really don't believe it should have been included. It is based on a spin semiconductor, the FV1, so it's not a good reverb chip to begin with, but I've heard okay algorithms with it. The algorithm that's included in here is kind of like a spring reverb algorithm. It doesn't sound all that great. They could have repurposed this chip to be a chorus or something like that, because there are programs that the chip can use to do a chorus. It's even in the official SDK. It shows you how to make it a chorus. They could have even made this a stereo output. The chip does support stereo, so a stereo chorus, even if it was digital, would be a much better thing than having it as this reverb. So to get to the reverb, I'm on my init patch that I made, which has no reverb. And to get into that, we go into the menu, and then we choose menu option 3. So now we can use this. This is mix, this is the filter, this is the decay, and the size of the reverb. It never goes fully wet because I believe all it's doing is mixing in the reverb to keep a analog signal path. I could be wrong. Maybe Dreadbox can correct me if they actually see this video. But I believe it stays completely analog until you bring in some of the reverb, and then it sums it out. Oof. I don't want to badmouth this synth at all, because it is like literally my favorite small form factor synth ever at this point. Not being hyperbolic on that, it is really good. But that reverb, oh god. Especially when you push it to be ambient. It doesn't do ambient, it just does ick. Oof. Oh god. Listen to that artifacting, listen to the comb filtering, listen to the ringing. Even at subtle settings, it's not good. It sounds like a fake spring reverb, and a fake spring reverb you would hear on a like discount mixer. I would actually rather them, instead of having the reverb, maybe repurpose the FV1 as a delay, like a lo-fi delay. That would be pretty badass. I mean, you can't get 100% wet with it because of, I think, how the routing is. But I don't even know if the FV1 is routed in such a way that they can update the programs that are sitting on. I'm not sure how they do that. I'm wondering if they're using the internal EEPROM memory, or if they have an external EEPROM, you don't know if they can firmware. I don't know personally if they can update the firmware to the FV1 on there and put in their own stuff past what came. Oh god, that's so bad. Let's turn that off. But yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they can firmware update the FV1 potentially, unless there is a path to the USB controller or some way to have the bootloader load software onto the FV1 component of this. But it'd be really cool if they made it like a delay or something, because they already have the chip in there. And as long, I think you can get a second of delay time out of that. So I'd rather like listen to that as a nice delay. It's not going to be stereo, but like a lo-fi delay, that'd be pretty cool. Or like a tape delay, something like that. That would be a lot cooler. I think the what is it called? GFI Systems, which I really didn't like the GFI Systems Specular Tempest. I know some people do, but I believe that's based on an FV1. The reverb algorithms were not great in that thing, but the delays were. So it's like you could potentially have good delays on this thing versus that just, it's ghastly. The reverb is just not good. It is the only downside to this. But I came into this synth expecting to fully use it with external effects. So that's not a downfall of the synth in any way. It's like they should have just made it a delay and made it a little more usable, in my opinion, because most people, I've never actually seen anybody like really use the reverb on this thing for good reason. And most people that have reviewed it have said the same thing that I'm saying right now. So it seems to be universal. I know I'm picky on reverbs, and if you've watched my channel, you know I'm super picky on reverbs, but that's just a bad reverb. Otherwise, absolutely fantastic synth. Yeah, it's just, I just love the sound of it. It's like a little mini Juno-esque synth. It's a boutique Juno / Prophet hybrid because the Prophet style filter and all of that. So it is interesting. This is what I feel that Roland would make if they could get their head out of their ass and not making just terrible synths as they do these days. I know somebody's going to have some backlash, but I really was excited for the Gaia 2 until I heard the thing. I'm just like, oh God, that's really what it sounds like. A $900 VA synth that sounds that bad. I mean, geez. And the boutiques are cool. That's why I bring this up. This is like what I feel like Roland should have been making with the boutiques, actual analog synths in this form factor. Because, hey, we got a tiny company from Greece that ended up doing it. And other than the reverb, it is a purely like amazing synth. And yeah, it feels that spirit of like old synths, but in a small form factor. So yeah, I'm just rambling now, but I'm really like I like this thing. Yeah, that's all I can really say about it. I love it. I love the form factor. I love this color scheme. It's a really cool color scheme. Yeah, thanks for watching. And if you like these kind of videos, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.